He had nothing. Not shoes, not safety, not a single hand reaching back for him. The billionaire had everything, except a reason to look twice. But on one cold Atlanta afternoon, a boy's voice rose above the noise, and in that frozen second, something far bigger than food was at stake. The sound of heels on concrete, the low hiss of traffic, the distant bark of a dog, all of it swirled together in the dusk like static. Near the corner of Peachtree and Ellis, a man stepped out of a black car, brushing down the sleeve of his cashmere coat. The wind tugged at the tail of his scarf, but he didn't notice. His hand, still gloved, held a brown paper bag. Charles Whitaker glanced down at it. Just a sandwich. Turkey on wheat. Something a volunteer had shoved at him after his keynote. He hadn't wanted it. He didn't even remember taking it. Across the street, a boy watched. Jamal crouched low beside a parking meter, knees to his chest, arms wrapped inside the sleeves of a jacket 2 sizes too small. The zipper was broken, halfway stuck, like everything else in his life. One sock, one shoe. He twisted a thread from his cuff, tight between his fingers. People passed. No one looked down. "I ain't invisible," he whispered, lips barely moving. But the words just joined the noise. A woman in pearls quickened her step, tugging her daughter's hand. "Don't look," she murmured. The girl looked anyway, wide eyes flicking back toward Jamal like he was some kind of ghost. He pressed closer to the brick wall, jaw clenched. A security guard nearby grunted low under his breath, not even bothering to stop. Just tossed over his shoulder, "Move along." Jamal didn't move. Not yet. His hand slid into his coat, brushing against the folded paper pressed tight to his ribs. A notebook. Thin, battered, with edges curled from rain. Inside it, maps of alleyways, names of shelters, dates circled in red. There was a flyer, torn in half, warning about food contamination in the downtown district. Letters faded. He knew it by heart. "They don't check dates," he mumbled, voice low. His lips chapped, bleeding a little. Next to him sat an upside-down Starbucks cup, the same one from last Christmas. A man in a scarf had given him hot chocolate in it, said nothing, just handed it over, and walked off. Now it was empty. It always stayed upside down. That was the rule. He turned it 3 times before eating anything. He didn't remember why anymore, just that it kept him safe. The cup sat still. Across the street, Whitaker stood by the curb, nodding absently to his assistant, who tapped at her phone. "The driver's waiting, sir," she said, barely glancing up. He didn't respond. He was staring at the sandwich now, one hand already tugging the wrapper open. He looked pale, drained, like he'd slept in silk sheets, but hadn't dreamed in years. Jamal stood. The move was sudden, sharp, like a shout in a chapel. "Don't eat that!" The voice cracked through the air, not loud like a siren, just clean, direct. People stopped. A biker rolled past, slowed, turned his head. Whitaker froze mid-motion, his mouth still half open, sandwich just inches away. He turned, slowly, like waking from a long sleep. "Why?" he asked. Jamal's feet scraped the sidewalk as he crossed. Not fast. Careful. Palms up. The baggy sleeve of his jacket slipped down, showing the edge of a wrist too thin for 12. "Don't eat that," he said again. "It's from the wrong truck. I know that batch." Whitaker blinked. Jamal's eyes didn't move. I got sick last week. Bad. They don't refrigerate them. They just stack boxes in the sun. A man in a Tesla leaned out the window with a snort. Drama, he muttered. Let the man eat. Whitaker sniffed the sandwich, shrugged. Why would you care if I get sick? Jamal's chin dipped. Ain't about you. It's just that batch. It kills people. A pause. Whitaker stared at him. Hard. Not mean. Just searching. What's your name? He asked. The boy's hands flexed. His eyes flicked once to the security guard still leaning by the storefront. Jamal, he said, voice barely above the engine of a passing bus. Whitaker looked down at the sandwich, then back at the boy. Without a word, he folded the paper back up, slid it into the bag, and handed it off to his assistant. I'm not hungry, he said. Then he turned, stepped into the car. The door shut soft, barely a thump. The tinted window rose like a curtain falling. Jamal stood in the street, still breathing hard. Behind him, a man coughed. A woman whispered something about public schools. But no one said thank you. He walked back to his spot beside the meter, picked up the cup, and turned it in his hands. Once. Twice. 3 times. He didn't look across the street again, but something had shifted. The traffic still moved. The air still hummed. But the silence felt different now, like something cracked open just a little. A soundless seam, and somewhere behind those dark car windows, a man sat very still, staring at nothing at all. The SUV rolled up slow, windows dark, tires silent on the damp asphalt. Jamal didn't move. He was used to cars pulling over, but they usually honked or yelled or offered the kind of food you had to sniff twice. This one just stopped. The back door opened before he could stand. A woman stepped out, mid-30s maybe, gray blazer, neat braid down her back. She didn't smile like a cop or stare like a reporter. She just looked at him like he was real. You're Jamal? She asked. He didn't answer. The Starks. His fingers brushed the edge of his notebook inside his jacket. I ain't done nothing, he said, just loud enough for her to hear. She tilted her head slightly. Mr. Whitaker would like to talk with you, if you're willing. He stared past her to the SUV, its engine whispering. For a second, he thought about bolting. Then he saw the juice box in her hand. Orange, unopened, brand new. She held it out gently. He didn't take it. Inside, the seats were too soft. The car smelled like leather and cinnamon, clean in a way that made Jamal feel dirty, just breathing in it. He kept his arms close, notebook tucked tight between his side and the seatbelt. The woman didn't say much, only, "You're safe here." He didn't believe her, but he stayed quiet. When the car finally stopped, it was in front of glass. Endless glass. A building that didn't seem to touch the sky, just melt into it. Upstairs, everything was still. Charles Whitaker sat behind a long, dark desk. No family photos, no clutter. Just a mug, untouched, and a screen too big to be useful. Jamal stood just inside the doorway, breathing shallow. The air smelled like espresso and printer paper. Come in, Whitaker said. He didn't raise his voice. Jamal walked slowly, every step louder than it should have been on the polished floor. He sat on the edge of a chair, legs swinging once, then stopping. Behind him, someone muttered near the coffee station. He's not even clean. Whitaker didn't blink. He's not here for a job. The assistant went quiet. He's here for the truth. Jamal's throat tightened. Whitaker leaned forward. Wait. His voice was calm but not soft. That sandwich, the one you stopped me from eating, you said it could kill people. Jamal gave a tiny nod. How do you know that? Silence stretched. Then Jamal opened his coat, pulled out the notebook with both hands. He laid it flat on the table like a sacred thing. Whitaker watched as the boy flipped through pages, some written, others drawn, all handled like treasure. There's trucks come from 3 different places, Jamal said finally. One's real. The other 2 fake it. They show the stickers, but they don't cool nothing. I got sick bad once. My stomach. He stopped. Swallowed. My mom worked at this diner off Piedmont. When COVID hit, they closed. She went to this church place, got food. His hand hovered over a page showing a half-drawn turkey sandwich with a red X beside it. 1 sandwich. That's all. She ain't come back. Whitaker didn't ask for more, didn't offer comfort, just looked at him like he'd stopped seeing the boy as a puzzle and started seeing him as something else. A warning, maybe. Or a mirror. Outside the office, a janitor leaned on his mop, watching as Jamal left the front desk later that day. The boy looked smaller somehow, shoulders curled in, notebook clutched like armor. The janitor shuffled closer, reached into a brown paper bag and handed over a muffin. Blueberry. Still warm. You looking out for people, huh? Jamal didn't answer, just took the muffin with both hands and nodded once. Next floor up, a logistics meeting buzzed with tension. Delivery delays have been fixed, one manager droned. We're back on schedule with all charity vendors. Jamal sat in the corner chair, too short for the table, knees barely clearing the edge. That's the supplier from 3rd and Mason, he said, quiet but certain. All heads turned. They use fake fridges. A pause. What? Someone said. Jamal reached into his jacket, pulled out the sketch of the truck, license plate half scratched in pencil. They swap stickers. They don't plug nothing in. Just park near a cooler spot so it don't smell. That's how you got sick stuff sitting 12 hours. One of the executives pulled up a phone, typing quick. His face changed. He's right, he said. You could feel the shift. Air thinning. Truth thickening. The procurement head stood up, furious. This kid is not certified. He doesn't belong in this room. Jamal didn't flinch, just looked him dead in the eye. Y'all keep saying legal, like truth gotta show ID. Silence fell again. Whitaker didn't say anything. He just watched. That night, Jamal stood on the rooftop of the building, arms crossed against the wind. The city stretched out in lights and noise. But up here, it was quiet. Too quiet. Ain't my fight, he said to no one. He opened his hand. The Starbucks cup sat there, cold, upside down. His fingers moved slow. 1 turn, then 2, then 3. His breath shook. He went back downstairs. The next day, the atrium of the building was packed. Employees, partners, people with name tags and nervous eyes. A microphone stood at the front. Lonely. Whitaker walked to it, cleared his throat once. We've got a supplier problem, he said. Then he stepped aside. Jamal stood next to him, barely up to the mic. He looked out at the crowd, a sea of expensive shoes and polished badges. He took a breath. It's not just about food, he said. It's about who gets to care. And then he stopped talking. No applause, no questions, just quiet, full and sharp. Whitaker stood beside him, eyes closed for a moment, not thinking like a CEO, just listening, like a man who'd just heard something real. Whitaker found him on the bench outside the transit station. No driver, no coat, no assistants hovering behind him. Just the man himself, in a wool sweater and worn shoes, sitting down beside the boy who once shouted at him across traffic. "You saved my life," he said. No ceremony in the words, no weight thrown behind them, just a statement, plain and still. Jamal didn't look at him. He was watching a pigeon hop around a trash can, waiting for it to fly or fail. "I believe that," Whitaker added. The silence stretched, but it didn't push them apart. It sat between them like a third person, breathing slow. No one reached for a handshake, no glass between them anymore. Back at the office, things weren't so still, board members whispered in corners. A senior VP leaned in close to a PR rep and said, "He's just a street kid. This is absurd." But someone else, young, newer, spoke just above a whisper. "He's the only one who cared enough to speak up." That hung in the air. No one replied. By week's end, the procurement head stood at the edge of the boardroom, badge in his hand. He dropped it on the table without a word. No drama, no press release. Just walked out and didn't look back. No one stopped him. A day later, Whitaker called Jamal back in. This time, no formality. Just the two of them, sitting across a small table. Jamal's jeans had holes, but they were clean. His jacket had a zipper that worked now. Still, he clutched the notebook. "I'd like to offer you something," Whitaker said. "Permanent internship, real work, housing, school, a mentor if you want one." Jamal blinked once, slow. "It's not charity," Whitaker added. "Just overdue credit." The boy reached into his pocket and pulled out the Starbucks cup. Same one, still upside down. He stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, he turned it right side up. "One condition," he said. "We don't just help me. We clean the whole thing. Every truck, every list, every loophole." Whitaker didn't hesitate. "You drive it." Jamal nodded once. "Then we do it loud." He didn't smile, but something near his shoulders eased. The movement began quiet. No headlines yet, just hands. New inspections. Real temperature logs. Warehouses opened for kids to walk through with clipboards. No fancy apps. Just paper, pens, and eyes that knew what to look for. And then the app came. Designed by Whitaker's team, led by Jamal's notes. Simple. Kids could file reports anonymously, upload photos, track bad batches. The red X from Jamal's sketch became its logo. He didn't want his name on it, but everyone knew who started it. One afternoon, the janitor from the office sat on a bench near a delivery entrance, sipping tea from a thermos. He watched a girl, maybe 10, step up to a driver and say, "That crate's got old date codes." The driver scoffed. The girl stood her ground. "She pulled a Jamal," the janitor murmured and smiled to himself. Back on Peachtree, the light hit just right. Same street, same corner. But the sidewalk looked cleaner now. There was a food truck parked near the curb. Not a sketchy one. This one had a real inspection sticker. A visible cooler. A line of people who looked like they trusted it. Jamal walked by, wearing a clean hoodie and sneakers that didn't squeak. His notebook still stuck out from his backpack. He didn't show it off. The Starbucks cup was back in its spot beside the meter. Not empty, right side up, full of change, quiet and steady. Whitaker passed by without speaking. Just a nod, a small, invisible tip of the hat. Jamal didn't respond, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel the need to.